Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, I have a couple of more very bizarre stories, folks. One involving a golem-like humanoid being seen, and another involving this crimson-eyed woman and flying pale entity. Let's get into the first story, named Golem-like humanoid reported feeding on horse inside locked barn, and hear exactly what took place. A Missouri witness says he was 17 years old when a loud bang from the family barn woke him around 3 o'clock a.m. in Pierce City. What began as a routine check on the horses turned into a terrifying encounter with a crouched humanoid creature allegedly feeding on a dead horse inside the locked structure. Let's go forth and read this witness's story, folks, and hear exactly, as I said earlier, what took place this night. I'm 27 now, but when I was 17, just weeks from turning 18, I lived in a small town in Missouri called Pierce City. At that time, I had saved up about 4 years' worth of paychecks and even sold my TV so I could buy a used Suzuki SV650. It was my dream bike. I bought it, and my father helped me get it back to our home because I was not legally allowed to ride it for a few more weeks. When we got home, I put the bike in our barn and locked the barn because we did not have a garage. So, yeah, I imagine he was anxious for it, folks. Either way, continuing with the story. I do not remember why I locked it, though. It was a very small town, so we knew pretty much everyone, and we were hours away from the nearest neighbor. The noise from the barn. I fell asleep around 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock p.m. and woke up about 3 o'clock a.m. after hearing a loud bang near the barn. And this was where his life was going to change, folks, because he was going to see something that he described as looking like Gollum. But from what I can say, folks, it sounds like a pale crawler. But as I said earlier, let's get back to his story. At first, I thought one of the horses may have gotten spooked or something, so I went outside to check. I always carried a Buck 110 folding blade. When I got to the barn, it was still locked. There were no windows except for one way up near the top. That window was about 15 feet high, and there was no ladder nearby. Inside the locked barn, I unlocked the barn and walked in. My new used bike was lying on the floor. Then I heard a crunching, chewing sound. Instinctively, I grabbed my knife. There was very little light inside, just enough to reflect off the polished metal. I thought he'd basically make more of a comment that his bike was laying on the floor instead of basically, maybe just standing up, folks, right? It sounds like this entity maybe pulled or pushed over his bike, so I think he'd probably be angry. But then again, all anger would probably leave him as soon as he saw this thing, folks. So let's see if I'm right and get back to his story. I looked into the pen, and I kid you not, there was something squatting over one of the horses. It had to have killed the horse because the animal was healthy, and we took good care of it. The entity's appearance. I've seen wolves eat animals before, and this was not like that. The thing looked like the cave-dweller creature from Lord of the Rings, but taller. I know it was only a few seconds, but it felt like minutes as I stood there frozen. Whatever it was looked at me. Then I turned and sprinted back toward the house, screaming. I'm not surprised he would do that, folks. Even if he was angry from, seeing his, bike pushed over, the sight of something inhuman like this would frighten anyone into flight. Either way, the chase. I swear it chased me. And I can only say, folks, yeah, it probably did chase him, folks. But then again, maybe it was fear. But let's continue with this story now and see where this goes from here on out. It ran on all fours and screeched like worn brakes on a heavy vehicle. I must have woken my dad because he met me at the door with his gun loaded. He fired 2 shots in its direction, then shoved me inside and shut the door. The thing seemed scared of the shots. Aftermath. We later called the police, but they found nothing. If anyone lives near there and has heard anything about this, please let me know. It still haunts me, and I live nowhere near there now. DR. Well, what did DR actually encounter, folks? Was it a pale crawler? It sounds smaller than the typical pale crawlers, folks. More like an elf, or literally like a hobbit, like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Either way, I would not be surprised if this really was some sort of cave-dwelling underground creature they saw, folks, like a troll, or maybe well, like a Bogart or something. Well, I'm not exactly sure Bogarts live underground. I know there are basically these other type of fairy-like entities. So you get the idea. Whatever he saw, troll, golem, I don't know, ogre, it definitely was frightened enough to, well, scare this young man into running for his life. But let's read on and get to the next story, which is named Crimson-Eyed Female and White Guardian Bat-Like Humanoid reported in Laguna Beach and Laguna Niguel, California. Let's read these accounts now. A developing series of unverified Southern California reports describes anomalous humanoids seen from Crystal Cove and Laguna Beach to Laguna Canyon and Laguna Niguel. The cases include crimson-eyed female figure near the surf and canyon terrain, along with a pale green-eyed bat-winged humanoid reportedly observed by a local police officer during late-night patrol. Together, these signs may represent part of a broader pattern of Los Angeles, Southern California humanoid signs now being reviewed through an ongoing, reports supplied by SR. Let's read these reports now and hear what the witnesses actually encountered. The Crystal Cove observation. The first reported incident occurred near the cliffs of Crystal Cove, where the primary witness observed what appeared to be a female aquatic humanoid watching from the surf below. According to the witness, the figure had jet black skin, long black hair, crimson fin-like structures on the sides of her head, and glowing red eyes. She remained in the surf below the cliffs, apparently watching the area before disappearing beneath the water. The witness described the encounter as brief but deeply unsettling because the figure did not appear to behave like a swimmer, diver, or a distressed person in the water. The Laguna Beach roadway encounter. Several weeks later, an Uber driver reported a frightening encounter while driving along a coastal road near Laguna Beach shortly after midnight. And what he probably saw was this, mermaid-like entity, folks. I'm saying it's mermaid, even though we don't know what it actually entirely looks like, folks. It's in the water and has fish-like qualities to it, which makes me think it's some sort of aquatic humanoid or even mermaid, folks. But let's read on and hear what this Uber driver actually saw in Laguna Beach on a roadway this, one night. The driver stated that a black-skinned female figure suddenly stepped out of the darkness and onto the roadway. He slammed on the brakes and narrowly avoided hitting her. What disturbed him most was that the figure did not react like a normal pedestrian. She did not jump back, move away, or show any sign of fear. Instead, she slowly turned her head toward the vehicle and looked directly at him. The driver reported seeing bright, glowing red eyes and unusual red fin-like structures on the sides of her head. He said she was not wearing reflective clothing, but her eyes were visible enough to make her face stand out in the darkness. The driver then looked away momentarily to grab his phone and call emergency services. When he looked back, the figure was gone. Police reportedly searched the area, but no injured pedestrian or unidentified woman was located. Witness statement. She wasn't wearing reflective clothing, but I could see her clearly because of those glowing red eyes. She looked at me without blinking. When I looked back after grabbing my phone, she had vanished. The Laguna Canyon Trail encounter. A third report came from two experienced hikers who were on a remote trail in Laguna Canyon during the late evening. The pair observed a female figure staying motionless among the rocks overlooking a seasonal creek. At first, they could not determine whether the figure was a person, but the longer they watched, the more unusual the sighting became. One of the hikers used binoculars and described a female humanoid with jet black skin, long black hair, crimson fin-like ears, and bright glowing red eyes. The figure reportedly looked directly at the hikers, but neither spoke nor reacted. As they cautiously approached, she walked behind a large boulder. When the hikers reached the location only seconds later, no one was there. They stated that there were no obvious escape routes and no sound of someone running away through the brush or rocks. Witness statement. She looked directly at us but never spoke. She walked behind a rock, and when we got there, she was simply gone. The Laguna Niguel Bat Humanoid Encounter. Another report filed under case number LN Bat 07 comes from a local police officer in the Laguna Niguel who reportedly continues to remember the incident clearly to this day. According to the reporting officer, the encounter occurred during a late-night patrol over a residential area of Laguna Niguel. While watching the sky, the officer observed what first appeared to be a large bird or unusual aerial animal moving above the neighborhood. Within seconds, the figure turned, and the witness realized it did not resemble a normal bird. The officer described a large white humanoid figure with broad bat-like wings gliding silently overhead. Now, this black-skinned, red-eyed woman, folks, she is basically being mentioned in the same breaths as this pale, gliding figure, because remember, she disappeared from an area where there were no obvious escape routes and the witnesses didn't hear her crashing through the woods that you would think would be, well, where she went. Maybe where she actually went, folks, was into the air. Now, she wasn't described as basically having wings or bird-like qualities. In fact, she had more fish-like and mermaid-like qualities from the first witness statement and onward. But maybe this entity, this woman with the black skin and black hair and red glowing eyes, was able to fly like our pale, flying humanoid entity here, folks. I'm just saying, they sound similar, especially for the fact they don't seem to be wearing clothing. And basically, well, beyond that, they feel somewhat similar with their unusual and almost mysterious-like descriptions. But maybe we'll learn more if we read the rest of this, well, pale flying entity's story. So let's continue. The figure was estimated to have a wingspan significantly larger than any known bat in the area. It reportedly had pale white skin, bright glowing green eyes, and wide leathery wings. Rather than flapping constantly, it appeared to glide effortlessly between rooftops. The officer stated that the figure was visible for only several seconds before it vanished into the darkness. Despite its intimidating appearance, the officer did not describe the entity as aggressive. Instead, it seemed calm, observant, and strangely watchful over the neighborhood. Almost like a guardian angel, folks. Maybe that could be said with the black-skinned, crimson-eyed woman as well. But I can't be for sure. Both of them sound just plain strange and less angelic and more alien or interdimensional than anything else, folks. But let's get back to their story now. The witness statement. At first, I thought it was a large bird, but then it turned and I could clearly see a human-shaped body with enormous wings. Its eyes glowed bright green. It didn't seem aggressive. It was simply watching over the neighborhood before disappearing. Here's some local folklore on this entity as well. According to local accounts from residents, a mysterious winged figure in the Laguna Niguel area is sometimes referred to as the White Guardian. The legend describes a pale winged humanoid that reportedly appears near emergencies or moments of distress. Some accounts claim the figure has been seen near vehicle accidents, lost hikers, and people in trouble. Despite its disturbing appearance, the local folklore does not portray the being as predatory or violent. Instead, the White Guardian is described as a silent protector that appears briefly, watches from a distance, and disappears before authorities arrive. It sort of sounds like basically a superhero, folks, and really reminds me of the last video I did of this Hawkman-like entity that was seen by basically this fisherman, folks. In that story, it's very strange, and the entity, well, that was seen, I think, in Missouri, really basically resembles DC Comics superhero Hawkman. And this entity also distinctly feels very similar to that, especially with its protective-like nature. But then again, we don't know what this entity was actually doing there, watching these accidents. All we know is that it seems to basically be benevolent rather than anything else. And the same could be said of this black-skinned, crimson-eyed woman too. But either way, both accounts are out there and strange and leave you wondering what the actual heck is going on. What are these entities, and is there any significance between them? I mean, the Hawkman-like entity was also said to basically be able to fly. It also dove into the water, much like the way this black-skinned woman was seen swimming, folks. So maybe these entities are both aquatic and basically, well, able to walk on land and fly in the air. Are they some sort of, well, alien entities? I mean, the Hawkman-like entity was clearly dressed with some sort of, well, suit, folks, so maybe there's that as well. Either way, all the accounts, including the first story you read about today, folks, clearly have odd things about them that make you think that there is more to them, and that these stories make you think that there's truly something else out there, folks, sharing our world with us and even beyond it. Either way, all I can say is that wow, they were truly out there and outstanding stories. But now we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure at the part of the bell that'll give you all future notifications. And please, share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Until next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.